You know, usually when you think about being productive, there's this expectation of grit.
Oh, for sure. Like a brute force kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Like it's just this brute force equation where you just put your head down, you drink another coffee, and you just push through the pile of work until it's finally done.
Yeah, it's almost treated as an endurance test. Like if you aren't sweating, you aren't actually working.
Pure hustle. I mean, that's the mindset. But
Mhm.
then if you look really closely at how we actually function today, that brute force approach is just completely broken.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It really is. We're looking at a daily landscape that just drains you, which is why today's deep dive is zeroing in on a stack of sources that, frankly, fundamentally dismantles that entire hustle mindset.
Yeah, we're digging into something really foundational today.
We're looking at David Allen's revised manual, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And the mission for you listening today isn't to figure out how to work longer hours.
No, definitely not.
Right. We are extracting a very practical, proven system to clear out the ambient angst, like the mental clutter of modern life.
Yeah, that baseline stress.
Exactly. It's about achieving stress-free productivity so you can actually be fully present in whatever it is you are doing. So, okay, let's unpack this.
So to fix the stress, we kind of have to look at the mechanics of modern work first.
Yeah.
And like why it is quite literally breaking our internal circuitry.
Right.
Think about historical labor, right? It had very rigid, visible edges. You plowed a field or you packed a box.
You built a wall.
Exactly. You could physically see the progress happening, and you knew exactly when the task was completely finished.
The work had a defined ending. You could just dust off your hands and walk away.
But today, we live in this era of knowledge work. And knowledge work is, by definition, edgeless.
Edgeless. That's a good word for it.
Yeah, it's this ever-shifting, amorphous blob of undoability. I mean, when is a marketing strategy officially perfect? Right. Or when have you read enough emails or researched enough data to know for sure your kid's education is optimized?
You literally never do. There's always more you could do.
Exactly. There is no edge. So you are constantly carrying around the potential for more work.
And that lack of edges, it acts like a virus on a computer's RAM.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, I mean, your brain is a brilliant processing machine, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing at that, but it is a terrible hard drive.
Terrible. It's so bad at storage.
It really is. So every unmade decision, every unresolved commitment, which the source material calls an open loop, is essentially a memory-hogging tab left open in your mental browser.
Yeah, just sitting there.
Right. So you've got a tab open for that massive Q3 presentation, and another tab for buying a birthday gift, and then a tab for that weird rattling noise your car makes on the highway.
Yeah, and even if you aren't actively looking at those specific tabs, they are pulling processing power in the background. They drain the battery.
Yeah.
And that generates this constant, low-level background anxiety that, honestly, we've all just accepted as normal.
It's just the water we swim in now.
Right. And the overarching goal of this methodology is to stop that battery drain. It's to reach a state that martial artists refer to as mind like water.
Mind like water, which, I mean, that sounds a bit mystical, but the physics of it make total sense when you break it down.
What's fascinating here is how literal it is. If you throw a pebble into a still pond, the water responds perfectly to the mass and force of that input. It
Right.
doesn't overreact, it doesn't underreact, it just absorbs the impact and returns to calm.
Right. It doesn't, like, stress out about the pebble before it even hits.
Exactly.
And it doesn't hold a grudge against the pebble after it sinks to the bottom.
No, it just is. Or another way to look at it, in competitive rowing, there's this concept called swing.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's that completely frictionless state where the boat is essentially swinging you. You stop thrashing around.
You just kind of lock in.
Right. True power and speed in any discipline, they come from a state of relaxation and readiness, not from tense, panicked striving.
So if our mental RAM is completely overloaded with like 50 open tabs, the only physical way to achieve that mind like water state is to get 100% of our stuff out of our heads.
100%. Not just 90%.
Right. And not just the big strategic goals either, like the mundane reality of your life too.
Yes, every little thing.
So the framework to do this is broken down into 5 distinct steps.
Right.
Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. And I want to spend some serious time on those first 2. capture and clarify.
Good call.
Because honestly, if you mess these up, the rest of the system just collapses.
It completely falls apart.
So capturing means putting every single incomplete in your life into a trusted external bucket.
Right, like a physical inbox or a digital notes app, whatever works for you.
Exactly. From navigating a massive corporate merger down to, replacing a dead flashlight battery in the kitchen drawer.
It all goes in the bucket.
Right. And then clarifying means emptying that bucket by looking at every single item and asking two ruthless questions.
And those are, what is it and is it actionable?
Right. But I have to push back on the capturing part a little bit, though.
Okay, lay it on.
Because I know myself, and I know if I sit down and write out every tiny mundane thing, buy nails, call Dave, fix the squeaky hinge, I am going to end up with a list of like 200 items.
Oh, easily. Maybe more.
Right. And doesn't visualizing all of that just create a massive spike in overwhelm? I mean, it feels like we are just generating more work to look at.
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh.
It definitely feels that way initially.
Yeah.
But that reaction fundamentally misunderstands how human psychology handles unresolved tasks.
How so?
Well, the core concept here is distributed cognition.
Distributed cognition.
Basically, you have to build an extended mind outside of your physical brain because your biological brain, frankly, is a terrible manager.
It really is.
It is not smart enough to remind you of things only when you can actually do something about them.
Right. Like, it doesn't wait until I'm actually standing in the hardware store to remind me about the nails.
No, it wakes you up at 3 a.m. to remind you about the nails.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or it interrupts your focus during a really critical budget meeting to remind you about that dead flashlight battery.
Always at the worst times.
Exactly. It nags you relentlessly because it knows you haven't made a final decision about the item and you haven't stored it anywhere safe.
Okay, so it's just trying to protect me.
Basically.
Oh.
But when you capture it externally in a system you actually trust, you are giving your brain permission to finally let it go.
Wow.
You aren't creating more work. You are just surfacing the invisible work that is already silently draining your energy.
Okay, that makes so much sense. It's like mapping the enemy rather than just fighting them in the dark.
Exactly.
Which brings us to what I think is, honestly, the most satisfying mechanism in the entire source material.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
The rule that dictates what happens during that clarify stage.
Yes.
The 2-minute rule.
It is so deceptively powerful.
It really is. So if you look at an item you've captured, and you determine the very next physical action to move it forward will take less than 2 minutes, you do not organize it.
Nope.
You do not defer it. You just do it right then and there.
Yeah.
And the logic is just bulletproof. The time it takes to categorize, file, and track a tiny task is actually longer than the time it takes to just finish the thing.
It clears an astonishing amount of superficial clutter from your life almost instantly.
Right.
You suddenly realize how many things you've been actively dreading are actually just like 90-second tasks you've been carrying around for 3 weeks.
It's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
It really is.
So, okay, the 2-minute rule handles the shrapnel, but what about the heavy lifting?
Right, the big stuff.
Yeah, once we've clarified the bigger items, we have a pile of actions, and
Yeah.
if you just dump them all onto a standard daily to-do list, we're basically right back to where we started.
Completely. And this is where we have to unlearn some of the most pervasive, frankly, toxic time management habits taught in the corporate world.
Okay, tell me more.
The absolute biggest flaw in traditional time management is the daily to-do list embedded onto a calendar.
Oh, man.
It's a disaster.
Because the calendar should be a sacred, hard landscape.
Yeah.
It is only for things that absolutely positively must happen at a specific time or on a specific day, like a 3:00 p.m. flight
Right.
or a 10:00 a.m. board meeting. If you start polluting that sacred space with wish list tasks like brainstorm Q4 marketing or clean out the garage,
Right.
you are setting yourself up for psychological defeat.
100%.
Yeah.
Because the moment your day gets chaotic, which, let's be real, is inevitable in knowledge work,
Oh, totally.
that wish list just gets blown up.
Right.
And then you have to constantly rewrite and migrate tasks to the next day. It dilutes the trust you have in your own calendar.
That makes total sense. When everything is treated as a hard priority, nothing actually is. So
Okay.
instead, non-time specific tasks go on to next actions lists. And the genius here is sorting them by context, which it really reminds me of the mise en place concept in a Michelin star kitchen.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, like a chef doesn't just have a giant master list taped to the wall that says make dinner.
Right.
They have their specific stations prepped. The chopped onions are right here. The sauces are over there. They only look at what they need for the specific movement they are making in that moment.
That is a highly accurate parallel. You really don't want to look at a master list of 100 random tasks.
No, it's paralyzing.
What you want is a next actions list called at computer.
Right.
So when you are sitting at your desk, you only see the precise actions you can execute with the keyboard.
Exactly.
Or you want a list called calls. So when you are sitting in an airport lounge with 10 minutes to spare, you just pull up that specific list and knock out 3 phone calls.
It completely removes the friction of context switching. I don't have to scan past, like, buy fertilizer when I'm just trying to send an email to my boss.
Right. And speaking of removing friction,
Oh, here we go.
this dives into the physical setup of the organized stage.
Yes.
It might sound absurdly tactical to some people,
Yeah.
but the source material emphasizes it heavily, and it is critical.
Okay.
You need a single A to Z general reference filing system, and you absolutely must invest in a personal automatic labeler.
I knew we'd get to the labeler. You got so incredibly hyped about the physical office supplies when we were prepping for this.
I can't help it,
Yeah.
because it is disproportionately impactful.
Really?
Yes. People fail at organizing their information because the friction is just too high.
Okay, I can see that.
If your filing system requires you to find a folder, find a pen, write on a tab, cross it out when you inevitably make a mistake,
Yeah.
and then shove it into a crammed drawer, you just won't do it.
No, you'll just stack papers on your desk.
Exactly. You just build piles. Having a dedicated labeler fundamentally changes your psychological relationship to your files.
Because it makes them look official.
Yes. It creates aesthetic uniformity. But more importantly, it drops the friction of filing a document to under 60 seconds.
Wow, 60 seconds.
If it takes longer than a minute to file something, human nature dictates you will resist doing it.
That is so true.
A labeler is arguably a piece of mental health equipment in this framework.
A piece of mental health equipment. I love the passion for office supplies, but it really highlights the underlying philosophy, right? You are engineering your environment so that doing the right thing is the easiest possible option.
Precisely.
But, I mean, let's be real for a second.
Okay.
You can have the most beautiful, meticulously labeled, context-sorted system in the world. By Thursday afternoon, after like 3 unexpected crises at work, that system is going to degrade.
Oh, without a doubt. Entropy is real.
So how do we keep this from becoming just another abandoned New Year's resolution?
Well, the critical success factor, the
Mhm.
absolute glue holding this entire methodology together, is the weekly review.
The weekly review.
If you don't do this, the system dies. Period.
I like to think of the weekly review like defragmenting a hard drive on one of those old 1990s computers.
Oh, man. I remember that.
Right. You'd run that program and you'd literally sit there and watch all those scattered little blocks of data slowly, painstakingly organize themselves into neat, solid rows.
It was mesmerizing.
It took time, but the machine ran so much faster afterward.
That is precisely what you were doing to your brain.
Yeah.
Once a week, you have to lock the door. Gather all your loose papers, process your meeting notes, review your calendar for the past and upcoming weeks, and update your lists.
So it's a complete reset.
Yes. The objective is to get clean, clear, current, and complete. Think about the psychological state you are in the week before you go on a big 2-week vacation.
Oh, you are a machine.
Right.
You are ruthlessly closing loops, delegating things, making rapid-fire decisions because you know you are leaving. It's this hyper-productive state.
And the weekly review is simply a mechanism to manufacture that pre-vacation clarity on a weekly basis.
Wow.
It forces you to renegotiate all your commitments with yourself.
Why do people skip it then? If it's so powerful, why is it literally the first thing to fall off the radar?
Because it requires you to face your own reality.
Oh.
Yeah, it forces you to look at the commitments you made on Monday and admit on Friday, I am actually never going to do this.
Ouch.
It requires saying no, which is uncomfortable. But if you push through that friction, your system remains an absolute source of truth.
Which is the only way we can actually move to the final step, which is engage.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If I've done my weekly review and my Meson place lists are perfectly prepped, I still have to choose what to actually do on a Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. without experiencing massive decision fatigue.
Right. And you do that by filtering your options through a 4-criteria model.
Okay.
You don't just guess. First, context. What are you physically capable of doing right now based on your location and your tools.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, time available. If you have a hard stop for a meeting in 15 minutes, you filter out the tasks that require an hour of deep focus.
Naturally. And third is energy available, which I think is honestly where most people get it so wrong.
Oh, completely.
We are just terrible at judging our own cognitive depletion.
We constantly try to force deep work when we are basically running on fumes.
Right.
If it's 4:0 p.m. and you've been on back-to-back calls all day and your energy is a 3 out of 10, your system should allow you to look at your lists and pick a low-energy task,
Like what?
like processing expenses or reading a short industry article or just organizing your digital desktop.
And finally, priority.
Yes. Given your context, your time, and your energy, what is the absolute highest payoff action you can take from those remaining options?
And by filtering through those 4 criteria, you just eliminate the anxiety of choice.
You do.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've solved the day-to-day chaos, right? We know how to handle the incoming emails and the errands.
Right.
But what happens when you are handed a massive multi-tiered project? Something that doesn't just have one next action, but hundreds of moving parts.
That requires examining how we actually plan and really unpacking the unnatural planning model that the corporate world has basically forced upon us.
Oh, I've lived the unnatural planning model in 100 different conference rooms.
All have.
The boss gets everyone together, stands by a blank whiteboard, and says, "All right, team, who has a good idea for the new product launch?"
Which immediately triggers premature evaluation.
Yeah.
People start shooting down ideas before the parameters are even set.
Yeah, like, we don't have the budget for that.
Exactly. It creates reactive, last-minute crises because you skip straight to the middle without defining the end.
Okay.
Contrast that with the natural planning model.
Okay, tell me.
This is how your brain naturally plans something as simple as just going out to dinner with friends.
Okay, let me guess the steps based on the dinner analogy.
Wait for it.
So, if I want to go to dinner, the very first thing is just a basic drive. I have a purpose. Like I'm hungry or I want to see my friend.
Correct. Purpose is step 1.
Okay. Step 2, I'm guessing, is picturing the result. I imagine us sitting at a specific Italian restaurant with a great patio. So, vision or outcome.
Yes.
Once I have that picture, step 3 is my brain automatically filling in the gaps. Do we need reservations? Are they even open? Who is driving? That's brainstorming.
Spot on.
Step 4, I put those thoughts in order. Like, I need to call the restaurant before I bother getting dressed. Organizing.
Yep.
And finally, step 5, the next action. Pick up the phone and dial.
Purpose, vision, brainstorming, organizing, next actions.
Wow.
That sequence is biologically hardwired into how we operate, but we rarely apply it to professional projects.
We just skip right to brainstorming without defining the vision.
We do, and the biological mechanics behind why we actually need that vision are fascinating.
This ties into the reticular activating system, right? The brain's internal search engine.
Exactly. The brain operates teleologically.
Teleologically, meaning geared toward a purpose.
Right. It needs a vivid, clear picture of success in order to start generating the how-to pathways.
Okay.
The reticular activating system filters out millions of bits of sensory data every single second.
That's wild.
And it only lets in what it believes is important to your specific goals. So if you don't define what wild success looks like for a project, your brain literally doesn't know what data to look for.
Oh, wow.
You won't see the solutions because you haven't actually programmed the search function.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, asking the simple question, why are we doing this, and defining that purpose expands our options.
Huge expansion.
It creates the specific criteria for every single decision that follows.
It does.
And once that vision is locked in, you can let your brain naturally brainstorm, capture all those ideas without judging them right away, organize them into components, and then define the very next physical action for each moving part.
And that brings us full circle.
Yeah.
Because once you define that next physical action, it drops right into your context lists, totally ready for you to execute when your time and energy finally align.
So let's distill the immense value of what we've covered today. The entire methodology basically hinges on 3 pillars.
Okay, let's hear them.
Getting absolutely everything out of your biological RAM and into a trusted external system.
Yes, pillar 1.
Defining the very next physical action for every single commitment.
Pillar 2.
And rigorously reviewing that system so you never lose trust in it.
You nailed it. You are migrating from a state of just hoping you are making the right choice in your day to actually trusting you are making the right choice.
And I love the author's concept of tricks.
Oh, the tricks are the best part.
Right. We have this delusion that we are highly disciplined, totally rational beings 24/7.
Which is hilarious.
It is. But implementation isn't about raw discipline. It's about using tricks. Like when you need to remember to take a package to the post office, so you physically put it on the floor right in front of your front door.
So you literally trip over it.
Right. You trip over it the next morning. The smart part of you, the night before, is actively tricking the under-caffeinated, rushed morning part of you into being productive.
I'd completely agree with that framing. Yeah. Ultimately, this isn't about transforming into a hyper-efficient, soulless work machine.
No, not at all.
It is exactly the opposite. It is about creating the psychological bandwidth to be fully engaged in life.
Yes.
If you are delivering a keynote speech, you want all your mental resources focused on that room.
Of course.
But equally, if you are having a beer with your team or just gazing at your sleeping child at midnight, you want to be able to do that without the ambient anxiety of unhandled emails creeping in.
You want the freedom to be truly present.
Yes.
Which leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with today.
Right.
We've talked extensively about building this manual system to clear your mental RAM, right?
Right.
But as we look at the rapid evolution of artificial intelligence and automated agents, it raises a really fascinating question.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
If, in the near future, AI can automatically capture, clarify, and organize all of our inputs for us without us ever touching a labeler.
IP the labeler.
Right. Will that total lack of friction actually make us more productive? Or do we fundamentally need the physical act of manually organizing our own stuff to feel a sense of agency and control over our lives?
That is a deep question.
Right. Like maybe the friction isn't just the problem we are trying to solve. Maybe a little bit of friction is actually the process that keeps us deeply connected to our goals. Food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Start clearing out your mental RAM today, and we will see you next time.